much. Good afternoon, everyone. I know we are running a bit late, but we'll try to make this session interesting so that any one of you who is feeling hungry can just wait for a few minutes and you'll find this session really useful. That's what we'll try to do. I'm really happy to see so many friends both over there in the audience and 5 of them sitting out here with me. So thank you all the panelists for your time, and someone like Pankaj, whom I'm seeing after many, many years, I guess. Though I keep on seeing him on social media, but last time, Pune, I think I couldn't meet him on that day. But thank you, Pankaj, also for joining us. So the topic that we have kept for the day is very simple, accelerating data-driven growth. Now, all of us know that data is something that everyone loves. There are a lot of people who really kind of hate data. I'll come to them later. But people have been talking about data is the new oil. You put a refinery called analytics on top of it. It's really going to change the world. We also know that the organizations today will do anything and everything to get any kind of data. And as I work with a lot of startups, I've seen that there are a lot of startups whose valuation is going up and up just because of the kind of data that's being collected. Now, data is also leading to the organizations really changing their business models, really changing the way they work, both at the operational level. So when you collect data at the operational level, maybe using IoT devices or even otherwise under normal things, or at the strategic level, the organizations are really changing the way they are working in a big way. And data is playing a huge role in this entire thing. So in this context, what we thought was that we'll just discuss as to how organizations are using data, what exactly is data-driven growth, what companies are really looking at it, what could be the do's and don'ts, and what could be the learnings that we have from my fellow panelists. Of course, the people who are sitting on the other side also would have a lot of learnings. I don't know whether we'll have time. I don't think so. Otherwise, I would have also requested some of you to just share some of your learnings as to how we can learn from each other. But from a panelist, what I expect is that over the next 30, 40 minutes, whatever time we spend, at the end of those 40 minutes, my own objective, and I'll always start a particular panel discussion with an objective. My objective is very simple. My objective is that I should learn at least 3 things from all of you, total combined. So that really helps me so that when I say that I have spent my 35, 40 minutes with you guys, I feel enriched, and that's what I would expect each one of our audience also to feel enriched, that it was worth coming and listening to each one of you. So let me just start with the person who's just sitting next to me, a very dear friend, Atul. So Atul, let me just start with you. A very simple question. When we talk of this topic, accelerating data-driven growth, what comes to your mind? है क्या? मतलब किस जानवर का नाम है? If I can just use in very simple terms. So tell us, so that all of us are on the same page.
I think. Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. So thanks for this question, Vijay.
Hello. So my view about data is, be it in personal capacity, or we talk about organizations, or we talk about governments, or the countries per se, if data actually is a safety net, and it also provides a kind of a telescope using which you can see in the future that what may happen, and using that, what happens is you are prepared for foreseen and also the unforeseen events which may happen. So that's one. Second is, if you also see, data also brings a compelling argument when you are in a meeting, when you are in an interaction, and if you want to drive a decision, data is what on which you can basically harp on, and it can become a compelling argument to drive a decision of the many options available. And finally, what I also see clearly is data also brings that degree of trust. Because basis data only, you can say, yes, why we are choosing this path vis-a-vis the other path. That is one. Howsoever, as I also want to highlight that, in organizations, in our parlance, if I were to say, data-driven growth is about creating new business models or new opportunities. And while we do so, we also have a clear view of which business areas are not doing so well, so that you can do you can have a plan around that also, because it's not about only doing something new. It's also making sure that your energies are focused on areas which can create value for the enterprise rather than on issues which you have been historically doing.
Absolutely. I think while it creates new business models, but you can optimize a lot of the current processes, improve efficiency, effectiveness. And the word that you said, telescope for the future, it also helps us in analyzing as to what has gone wrong and what can we do. So let me just move to someone who does a lot of consulting outside India. So Pankaj, from your perspective, when you see this word, how companies are really using the data to drive growth. So actually, how do one accelerate data-driven growth?
Thank you, Sethi sir. But yeah, so data-driven growth, so everything is data today, human is data. Now, with data coming into the picture and becoming a play, the omni-channel approach of collecting this data, massaging this data, getting analytical outcomes, as Atul said, creating new business model. The fact-finding exercise backed up with data analysis or the data outcomes is creating new business models. We all have seen how multiple companies across different sectors are creating new channels. Metaverse, for example, creating new omni-channels. So the experience in the virtual world and delivering the goods in physical world. Lot of other opportunities are arising of the data. We said data is new oil, oil need refineries, but the analytical mind, the AI/ML approach towards data patterns, finding that right data patterns is what it is making new business models. A lot of data is sitting inside the organization. We are building a lot of new outcomes out of this data, new revenue channels out of this data. We are ensuring that this, data is clean, easy, deduplication is taken care of, and we are at least seeing, if a mistake has happened for some reasons, this new fact-finding outcome from this data is creating new economical models or masses to scale actually.
Absolutely. And you added the AI/ML part. Absolutely. The entire core of AI/ML is data. If there's no data, there's no AI, there's no ML. What will algorithm really do? So Dr. Sindhu, let me just move to you. From your perspective, where do you see the data really impacting organizations?
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to all of you. I'm not basically a data guy, but yes, through my enterprises, I keep collecting data. So my views on this is slightly different from what others are saying, but of course I don't contradict them, I fully endorse them. So we are basically an impact platform. So what we are trying to do, what I have seen that some say 15 years back, I did not have any value. Only during these 15 years, I have got some value, and everyone says that I have some value. Why? Because I think in technology, in every part of this technology, there is Uberization of technology. So we are moving towards numbers only, and we are moving towards revenues. When you are moving towards numbers and revenues, you are always talking of data. That what should be the determining factor for your importance, for your value determination. So that is where data comes in. Now, when data is becoming the real gold and the real oil in our society, all our data scientists and analytics people, they are the real gold diggers, I should say. So that is what is happening in our society, in our enterprise. But the real purpose of data is to sieve the information, sort it out, and create a proper roadmap for the enterprise. Because we have to create numbers. We have to create value for our organization. And those values can only come through numbers.
Fantastic.
That is why the whole financial implication, or say the financial statement observation, and has also changed. It is no more your profit or net profit. It is what is the CAC, what is the number of subscribers you have. So that is the whole change in the perception with data infusion.
Fantastic. So you spoke about that base data is not just the only thing, but it's a value that has to come out of the data, only then it makes sense. So that really takes me to Sanjeev. Sanjeev, from your perspective, people are talking of data-driven growth, but what is the real benefit that you see from this entire data-driven journey?
Yeah, actually, my fellow panelists have already highlighted some of the benefits. So we know that if the data is there and if it is analyzed, we see a lot of insights. Now, let's look at it from business point of view. What do we do with these insights that we have? You know, that's very important here. I work for a power distribution company, and I can tell you what kind of insight is happening in power distribution. See, the government has embarked on a journey of implementing what is called the smart meters. Okay, you have a meter at home that is getting replaced with smart meters. Now, what does a smart meter do? It actually captures data on a more regular basis than your ordinary analog meter, which you have been using for decades. So you have this smart meter, which is not only capturing it, but transmitting data, usually at an interval of 15 minutes. So compare a situation where your analog meter is being read just once a month and then you are being billed. Now we have a situation where the meter is being read 96 times, 15 minutes every day, right? 15 minutes. So 96 times every day, and then that information is being stored. And what kind of information? Not just your consumption. It is capturing your consumption level, but also what kind of peak you reached, what kind of minimum value, maximum value, what kind of power quality you are receiving, and so on and so forth. So imagine the amount of information about the consumer which is available today, because we have a data capturing mechanism in place. And this gives a complete insight on that consumer or customer compared to what was there earlier. So imagine now a distribution company implementation of smart meters knows much more about you, so that it can service you better. And for example, your power quality maybe you are receiving is very poor. You are not getting 220 volts. Maybe you are getting 260, 270. At least it will know you are getting a device burnt out. It will know how to address this. It was never there earlier, right? So this is the way, it's a way to enhance your customer satisfaction because it helps you in understanding your customers better.
Fantastic.
I think that's one way to look at the benefit. There are a lot of other benefits, but I thought at a time, let's address only one.
So, but I think the key point, Sanjeev, that you spoke about, that at the end of the day, the value that Dr. Sindhu spoke about, finally it has to translate somewhere to customer satisfaction, customer delight. Kapil, from your perspective, how do you see the benefits of data?
So I'll share some recent development. What we have done is, so I do also agree what we have spoke about, other panelists spoke about, and we all understand data is very important. So I was looking at, when I joined Dhanuka, like I was looking this perspective from the different ways, how I can add value, because we are a very old organization. And we have lot of data available, research data available, and factory data, plant data, IoT data, customer data, all type of data were available with us. So what we have done is recently we have implemented ChatGTP, so that my focus was to reduce the productivity of the organization. We have integrated our data warehouse with the ChatGTP. So whenever we are querying, I give you the example of two use cases. One is for the legal contract, we were generally taking so much time, 7 days to 2 months time. And so when we have integrated all the contracts with the ChatGTP, with our database, so what it was doing is, it was 60% drafting the contracts the way we were looking for, and the 40% people were managing it. So SLA from the 7 days to brought down to the 1 day. So this is because of the data what was available with us, and we were doing the multiple contracts since 43 years. Other use case was very interesting, wherein we have included the research data, and you won't believe is people are taking so much benefit of it. Whenever any scientist want to do some research, let's say he's start starting something. In India, generally, maturity of the research is 7 years. So there are certain stages, 2 years, then you have to file it, then you have to see the compliances and the, IPR and other thing. So, which is basically taking so much time during the research, which generally they are always spilling off. So the intention was plugging this particular data with the chat GTP to get basically more efficient time and delivery. So this way, like, we have integrated and we got a lot of benefit of it. So this is what I wanted.
Sure.
So data is a superpower now these days. You can play around it.
Fantastic. So both Sanjeev and Kapil spoke about some real benefits that the organizations are getting out of it. Atul, let me come back to you. Now, when we get this, cloud plays a huge role in this entire thing, and people are talking for hybrid cloud. We just saw a presentation again on cloud. What, according to you, is the role that cloud plays in this entire journey of companies becoming data-driven?
Actually, over the last 5-6 years, what we have seen is cloud earlier was restricted only to mailing solutions or maybe peripheral or perimeter related aspects. But now what we find is even aspects like cybersecurity. You got tools, cybersecurity tools and offerings which are actually being hosted from the cloud. So it's come a full circle, I would say. So, and the whole cycle of experimentation, because today if you see, 1 year back, maybe in July of 22, nobody in the room would have generally heard about ChatGPT. And today, as we speak, in July of 23, every single child, even child of 4-5 years of age, they would be using ChatGPT maybe for their homework or for some or the other work. Which means that technology is changing at such a rapid pace, which anyhow, no enterprise of whatever scale we talk about can afford to have or build these solutions in-house. More and more, you would find enterprises, you would find governments leveraging cloud offerings, be it SaaS, be it because when you talk about these offerings, you also need infra to provision them. You need platforms to enable them. How do you build all of that? Because in most cases, if you were to order an infra today, you might get it after 6 months. In 6 months, you would have lost that opportunity. So most organizations today are leveraging cloud to do quick experimentations. Maybe out of 10 experiments, 10 offerings, or 10 tools which they experiment, 2 actually works for them. So they then scale it up to a different level, which was not possible earlier. So, and also when you talk about multi-cloud, because no single provider or no single SaaS offering partner will have best of the breed offerings in multiple aspects. Maybe somebody is good in CRM offerings or Salesforce automation. Somebody may be good on analytics. Somebody may have a mobile platform. So, or somebody may enable e-commerce. So you have to look at best of the breed offerings available, pick and choose of what makes absolute business sense, what can create value for your enterprise. And then, because it's important that you create quick wins. Because unless you create quick wins for your enterprise to your leadership, they will not be interested. They don't want to hear the jargon that, no, we can do this, we can do that. They want to see what exactly is happening here and now.
Sure. I think fantastic steps, points that you spoke about, especially now even cybersecurity, as they say that if you have to really drive fast, your brakes have to be good. So cloud also plays a huge role from cybersecurity. So coming back to you, Pankaj, are companies all over the world talking about cloud today? After pandemic, is it cloud first, or is it that people are going back to on-prem? And is cloud playing a huge role in this data-driven growth?
Tricky question, sir, but let me say this. Some years back, I used to hear cloud was good for rinse. And today we see mobile first and cloud first as a strategy. Hybrid cloud adds complexity, but it also has various advantages. Just as example of ChatGPT, large amount of data processing is happening on cloud. No enterprise can afford this kind of compute available on hybrid cloud, which can be, internally used within a periphery of a network. And it also means that, if you are on a cloud from a DevOps perspective, you fail fast, but recover faster.
And fail cheap.
And fail cheap. Right. As Atul rightly said, you order the infra, by the time it arrives and you are ready to test it out, you lost the opportunity.
Correct.
So fail, recover faster, but fail cheap. So this is where we are seeing multi-cloud is doing better job. Skills are now available, people are able using it. Startup, MSMEs, all of them are using cloud first as a strategy today. There is no challenge in terms of lack of complexity. Yes, there is some, but there are tools. Security vendors are working on multi-cloud hybrid strategy. And even from a CIO perspective, he doesn't want all the eggs in the same basket.
Absolutely.
Right? Hence, they are also still adopting the multi-cloud strategy.
Yeah. Also, it might not be just all eggs in one basket, but the reality is that maybe one set of vendors or vendors on a particular set of cloud provider may not be even able to provide all the things that you need.
Absolutely. Bang on.
Sure. So, Dr. Sindhu, let me come to you. So, we heard about benefits, we about cybersecurity, we heard about the cloud piece. From your perspective, to this audience and to me especially, if you would like to give 2 or 3 pieces of advice that if someone is really looking at making the organization data-driven and accelerating the growth, what, whether in cybersecurity terms or in terms of any other thing that you want to talk about, few minutes of your knowledge that you want to hear.
I was waiting for your question, exact question. So anyways, so what happens with the embedded finance and creator economy of Web3 and all, you have multiple channels of data which are moving and which you are not only creating, you have also to process them and then reprocess them and take it back, bring it back, give it back. So many functions happening simultaneously. So as rightly commented by all the other speakers, that it is very important to have not all eggs in one basket. So we have multi-cloud opportunities so that all these different data streams can go and reside there. And that's why we have come out with data lake houses also. So that different processes can go in to different segments, and then the processing time and reprocessing time and redistribution time is minimized. And that's the best part for it, because more and more transactions we do. So, as I earlier said, that we are transaction centric. So more and more transactions we do, our revenue grows and our membership grows, and that adds value to our enterprise. So that is very, very important in this sphere. This is what I think.
Fantastic. So, Kapil, you spoke about a brilliant example. Any learning that you want to share with us?
Yeah, too many actually. So
Thodi si, zyada nahi.
one of the biggest fear most of the people are hearing is ChatGPT, generative AI will come and people will lose the job, and I totally disagree with that. Only fear the people those have if they are not having learning curve. If you don't know the generative AI or ChatGPT kind of application, you will definitely lose the job. So my submission is, first of all, you all should learn ChatGPT, generative AI, right use cases in the implementation. Otherwise, definitely it will be threat to your organization, what people are talking about. Yes, there are some use cases where they have eliminated the part, but they're boosting the power of the, horsepower to the organization. That is one. Second thing is, lot of tangible benefits you can get it, and non-tangible as well, like productivity increase, all of a sudden knowledge increase, right? I will give you one classic example. Every human has an IQ. The maximum IQ of a human is in a scale of 115. I'm telling you the learning, what I learned it. And in 2024, the next set of the AI which is coming in, his intelligence is 16,000 crore. Just imagine it. Where you were standing, a human can think. The Newton was the person in the world who was having IQ of 160. Right? And the normal human has the IQ of a 60 to 115. 115 is a super brainy. And the AI which is coming, I'm talking about 16,000 crore IQ level of the AI. So just imagine it, if this kind of system will be in front of you, so you can use in a better. It's like another example I want to give you. If you buy a Mercedes and you given that Mercedes to driver to drive it, so what's the fun of it actually? Just imagine, you can't enjoy, right? It is generative AI is like that. If it is there, you are implementing in the organization, you should be ahead with the curve. Then you can basically develop the very, very good use cases and implement it. That's what is my learning.
Sure. Pankaj, from your perspective, any learnings that you want to share with the group?
I think hybrid cloud is here to stay. Like morning I wake up, my WhatsApp is on cloud, my collaboration tool is on cloud, my emails are on cloud. Cloud is de facto application today and I can't live without it. Learnings, right approach to implementation is very important. It's just not that it is cloud and you have passed on everything from on-prem to cloud, that's not the worry. But managing scalability, security aspects of cloud is important to do. So the right deployment, right plan of rollout, also right plan of reversal. Moving from cloud A to cloud B is still also a challenge. It's just not a lift and shift migration, but it's a complete stack. So need to be careful what, how, where you are choosing and choose best of the tools and the products from cloud, and then that's where you use hybrid cloud there. So need to be aware about what cloud where and what is the right use case of adopting a hybrid cloud is important, sir.
So choose well, implement well, and then also ensure that if you fail fast, fail cheap, learn from it and move on.
Perfect,
That's what
sir.
I heard. Let me move to Sanjeev. From Sanjeev, you gave an example, good example of power sector. Any learnings that you want to share with us?
Yeah, I was just going through some survey reports and I found that though every organization wants to become data-driven, only 23% of the organizations have actually been able to be data-driven. So obviously there is something which the learnings which these people have done, which many people haven't been able to do. Okay, and I think that's where it is important. So it's important to learn from their learnings as well as our learnings. But in my view, a few things which matters a lot is, if you are going to convert an organization to data-driven, it is not the tools or the technology which will actually do this. The first and foremost enabler is the people there, okay? If they want to do it, the organizational people, if they want to do it, then only the actual change will happen. So therefore, there is a need to have a data mindset within the organization, or maybe you can call it a data literacy, or recognizing the fact that there is a need to go and become a data-driven. So this people aspect, I think, is the first stumble which everyone has to overcome. And once that is there, if that has been recognized by everyone after the organization has become data literate, then incorporating the various tools and having data capturing mechanism and analyzing them will all fall in place. I think that's the most important.
Fantastic. So as they say, digital transformation is just 10% tech and 90% human. And for data-driven, we need to ensure the organization really has a DNA of being data-driven, which would mean that if I'm doing analytics, I should be able to see on all the analytic tools rather than then saying that, okay, now create a PPT for me or take a printout and then I'll see historical data. It doesn't work. Atul, from your perspective, let me come to you as to what will be the learnings that you have from the huge experiences that you have had on the data-driven journey.
So I think three specific ones which I want to highlight. One is aligning the leadership team that that data discovery and making database decisions makes business sense. And for that, it doesn't just come as a wishful thinking. You need to make them aware of the art of the possible. You have to make site-specific business use cases which actually enables them to do so and derive benefits. That is one. And then once you have leadership aligned, then of course you can make it, democratize it across the enterprise. And second is the PPC, which is people, process, and also from a cultural standpoint, the culture and the change management standpoint. So this is extremely important because if you continue to do things the traditional way and only the data which is getting generated or analyzed, it's limited to some select data scientists or in the MIS team, then this doesn't see the light of the day. So it has to be democratized so that business users use and consume data for their day-to-day decision making and to drive growth. Last but not the least, what we clearly see is the creating awareness and literacy and maybe creating awareness programs in a very structured manner. Like I give you a short example. Like we talk about generative AI, but if it's just limited to the tech team to consume that, so you need to create workshops for down the line, explain what generative AI implies for their working and how it can facilitate them. Or if you talk about robotic process automation, so you have to show them, demonstrate them, not on slides, but as a demonstration in their work process. And just to summarize, what I also have seen is, once you launch such programs, any data or digital interventions, no, you need to do it in a very phased manner. You just can't go whole hog. You have to do it in a phase so that you have some power users who can drive it. You get their feedback, improvise on the solution, and then you launch it to a larger set of users.
Fantastic. So culture.
Business intelligence can create the necessary tools for the development of your business. The third is data ethics, because just creating data, having data is serving no purpose, but it has to be relevant to the utilitarian value of the enterprise, because scientific temper is basically for utility and for comfort level of we human beings. So the utilitarian value must be part of the data ethics as well. And lastly, I will say data literacy, so that everyone is literate, and immutability of data as evidenced by blockchain. So we should try to go in for all those features for these data that we collect. Then I think we'll have a better data culture and data world.
I think that's really fantastic the way you put this entire thing and kind of summarize the entire discussion. So maybe in the last 1 minute, I think the organizations in today's time need data. They are changing their strategy, which is based on all the data analytics, and there are enough and more tools. Of course, cloud and especially multi-cloud is playing a huge role. But in this entire thing, we need to ensure that the quality of data being collected is fantastic, immutable, and those kind of things which Dr. Sindhu also spoke about. And the last point is that while we are doing all this, we need to take care of the culture of the organization, ensure that people are data literate, data becomes data-driven, analytics becomes the kind of culture of the organization so that people can use it. So with that, let me just thank all my fellow panelists. Pankaj, thank you very much. Dr. Sindhu, Atul, Sanjeev and Kapil, thank you very much, and thanks to the entire organizing team. I know we're already at around 1:30, 1:40 and must be waiting for lunch. So thank you everyone for this. Thank you.